On today's show, we welcome from the Jackson County Health Department the Director of Environmental Health Services, Don Haydock. Hey Don, good to see you.
Good to see you again. Starting to make this a habit.
It is. Well, last time Don was here, he's getting ready for graduation, and he got one daughter fully graduated at Hope College over the weekend. Congratulations.
Yeah, and my high schoolers about a month from now.
One down, one to go.
A few weeks.
Graduation season, it's tornado season, spring storm season, and it's flooding season. And we were talking before the show, we got really heavy rain yesterday morning, and flooding can happen anytime, and especially in southern Michigan.
It can. And you want to take a preventative viewpoint because this is Michigan. Yesterday's storm was a isolated storm that kind of came through, but it was heavy rain. I drove through it, and there were cross winds going in one direction as I was driving through it. Came out of it, and it was going in the opposite direction. Heavy rain, which can lead to isolated areas of flooding.
Remember a couple weeks ago in Florida, there was one, I can't even remember what town it was, Fort Lauderdale maybe, they got like 20 inches of rain in one day.
That's incredible. I don't think that's going to happen here. Let's hope.
Let's hope not. But so flash flooding can occur, and we're in the Grand River Basin, so we're all susceptible. What are some of the things we should do, when it's not, when we're not seeing the threat, so that we're prepared when we do have the threat?
Well, it's always a good idea just to be basically prepared at home. Have some bottled water, gallons of water on hand so that, you have a safe water supply, because a safe water supply that is clean, healthy to drink, uncontaminated is the key for everything. It's probably the most important thing besides shelter. Take care of anything around your house so that the water runs away from it. And then just pay attention to the weather reports. They're going to clue you in as to what the immediate hazards are or something that might be a couple days away. And so that gives you a little bit of time to prepare.
We've all seen those cars stuck under an underpass, overpass where there's pooled water and cars won't run.
They won't.
No.
Never a good idea to drive through floodwaters. It doesn't, and especially if it's moving floodwaters, sheeting across the road. Don't even bother trying. Just turn around, take your time, find an alternate route. People have lost their lives by trying to drive through floodwaters. That's a fact of life and death. And so just avoid it, err on the side of caution.
Yeah, you can see their thought pattern. Oh, I think I can make it. But
they see a semi-truck going through it. Well, semi-truck weighs a little bit more than a basic passenger car. 12 inches of fast-moving water can move a passenger car right off the road and wherever it may end up being.
So the water itself, it's not safe to even stand in floodwater.
Well, 2 to 4 inches, up to 6 inches will take a human away very quickly. You'll have a hard time keeping your balance.
And it's also potentially contaminated with God knows what.
Yeah, because all that water is rushing off of the landscape. Obviously, we have a lot of septic systems. We have a lot of industry. We have a lot of urban areas as well. During heavy rains, all that land and everything around it is being washed out down into the rivers, streams, valleys. And so, yeah, there's a lot of contamination.
So if water does get in your house, and so many, I know that people have had flooded basements. I'd be afraid to walk in a flooded basement for electrocution for one thing. That's a potential hazard.
Yeah, that's the key thing. Electricity and water do not mix. Just again, err on the side of caution. If you start to see floodwaters come up, turn your breakers off. Find your fuse box, circuit breaker box, turn the electricity off, because again, electricity and water, bad mixture.
A lot of people in our area have their own wells. Some pumps, their own wells. So floodwaters can contaminate. They can contaminate
Yes.
the well water too, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's, know where your wellhead, that'll be that, white or steel cylindrical pipe coming out of the ground, about a foot, sometimes 6 inches. It should be, by code, at least 12 inches above the grade. If your floodwaters are approaching that, try to, cover up the top of it with heavy-duty plastic and tape to try to keep the floodwaters from getting into the well. If the floodwaters get up to the wellhead, assume your well has been contaminated. Call a well driller. They can disinfect the well. They can disinfect your piping after the fact. Again, err on the side of caution. But things along those lines, assume that your well is contaminated. Now, if the floodwaters are about 50 feet away, got close, but really didn't, it's not a critical thing. You don't have to disinfect. You could just test your well water. If it comes back negative for coliform bacteria, you're okay. Okay, you're not getting any contamination getting down into the well.
And then people that have septic systems, septic tanks, leach fields, the flooding can also impact that.
Oh, negatively, at least on a temporary basis. Obviously, if you have floodwaters, your septic system isn't going to take any additional wastewater because it's flooded, it's saturated. You're going to have to wait till the waters recede and the soil, starts to dry out before your wastewater septic system is functioning again.
So let's say water does get in your house. Maybe it's a couple inches. We've seen it, everyone in Florida, that they're ripping drywall off their walls. It's like automatic. Is that necessary?
If you have standing water that is in your house, it is. You really have to gut it down to the studs, see what the impact, pull out the insulation, do it very quickly, get everything dry. That's your saving graces. To keep mold from happening, you got to dry things out fast. And then you can also disinfect with a bleach and water solution as well. Or call professional companies.
All right, and so it's mold. That's the danger.
It's one of the dangers, yes, definitely. And there's 100,000 different varieties of mold. 60,000 of them are black in color, including mildew, which is generally harmless. So,
let's say it's water that just gets in your basement and it's concrete, concrete floor, concrete walls. What should you do after the water gets drained out?
Bleach and water. Yeah, bleach does a wonderful job of disinfecting. Instructions are on the Clorox bottle, and just get everything dry. Anything that's porous, furniture, something that something along these lines, you're probably going to pitch it and trash it. But scrub down the walls, scrub down the concrete floors if that's the type of basement you have, and get it all dried out, get the fans going, dehumidify, and it will take some time because it's a basement. And,
so if you happen to have one of those cars that gets trapped in flooding and the water rises so that it gets, say, in the compartment, passenger compartment, is your car totaled at that point?
Maybe, maybe not. I'm not a car expert, but floodwaters, again, the electrical systems on cars, the computer modules, there's a ton of computer modules in cars these days. And they don't really like water either. And I've lost a phone or two in a lake, so they don't recover well.
Yeah, I wonder how EV versus gas combustion vehicles, I wonder if there's a difference in...
Yeah, good point. I don't really know, to tell you the truth. Time will tell on that front.
Well, we've had the rain. We're starting to get some warm weather, so mosquitoes can't be that far behind.
You can count on them starting to show up this weekend in some decent numbers. I almost guarantee that.
They're out already.
Yeah,
All
a
right.
few here and there, no doubt.
Well, let's hope we don't have flooding, but there's some helpful information for you to avoid problems should the water rise. Well, great to see you, Don. Thanks for coming in.
Well, thank you.
Don Hayek is the Director of Environmental Health Services with the Jackson County Health Department. Well, in addition to Don's daughter graduating from college over the weekend, we've got some other things